I came here to save you.
The fortress is taken.
It is over.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
You're my only hope.
We shall fight on the beaches.
There will be days when we lose faith.
We band of brothers.
But take heart. Look around you. You're not in this fight alone.
I bid you stand! Men of the West!
Hello, this is Caleb from KingsAdvisors, and today I am making a video that I've been wanting to make for a very long time. Now, over the years, I have fallen in love with some very big fandoms, very good stories. Stories like The Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, or A Song of Ice and Fire. The Mass Effect games are some of the best games in video game history for me. I've loved the MCU until recently. DC Comics and their movies, the National Treasure movies, and of course, 007. As big a fan I am of all of these franchises, intellectual properties, whatever you want to call them, there's one franchise that I have always had a really big love for, and until recently haven't really enjoyed expressing that love, and that is Star Wars. I remember being like 6 years old and watching the original trilogy with my dad, and then a couple years later watching the sequels. I remember seeing episode 3 in theaters, and I remember how crushed I was when Order 66 was initiated. I remember playing Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, Battlefront. I can go on and on. I remember being angry when the new Battlefront games weren't nearly as good as the originals. I remember being angry walking out of the theater for The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. I remember being furious. And it was then that I really kind of stopped caring about Star Wars. I watched Mandalorian and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't as grabbed. I didn't care as much because I think the same for a lot of people. We all knew where it was going. It was going to the sequels. So it's kind of like, why bother? But I think over these last 2 weeks, I've joined some really great communities, really great Star Wars communities between X-Wing and Echo Base Network. I felt that love again, that excitement, that noise when you hear. That's my attempt at doing a lightsaber. The fear of. There's no more iconic sound than a lightsaber and Vader's breathing. You're not going to find anything like that from any of those other IPs I mentioned. And I have to say, over the last week, anyone that's ever looked at our Twitter account knows that I have a whole lot of Star Wars Legos. And they've always been really fun to build. And, I watch the movies or some of the shows while I build them. But it still never really grabbed me for the past couple of years like it used to. It used to be an event for me. Like, I used to block out schedules. I used to let everyone know, do not call me because I'm busy. And now it's just kind of like, after the sequels, it just kind of became like almost a chore. But it doesn't really feel like that anymore. I finished building the Razor Crest the other day, the Ultimate Collector set, and absolutely enjoyed every second of it. For the last 7.5 hours of building it, I was joined by a recent friend to the channel, Rolo, and we talked Star Wars for 7.5 hours. There was some Lord of the Rings mixed in there. The day before I was on a stream with X-Wing for 4 hours talking Star Wars, and I'd missed that. It had been so long since I had enjoyed this property, and I'm just so happy to have it back in my life. And I have to say I owe that to these two communities, to X-Wing and Echo Base Network. And if anyone is watching this video and you're not following them, go do it, because you'll get some great stuff. And I think part of what's great about some of these people now is it's not people trying to ride the algorithm and hate on the sequels, because we're tired of that. We did that and we're tired of it. We want to just talk about how great Star Wars is and the feelings that you got when you first saw some of these great moments. I remember I was kind of inspired by one of their streams. They did they were looking at an article that listed the top 7 moments in Star Wars. And none of them, except one of them, was really a top 7 moment. They had Battle of Heroes, which is the Battle of Mustafar, in its top 7. And that is definitely a top 7 moment. The Battle of Mustafar, the fight on Mustafar, is an incredible moment. All culminating in like the best part of the prequel trilogy, with the "I love you, Anakin. You were my brother. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them." I love it. And so what I wanted to do here, I wanted to start my renewal of my Star Wars love affair with is my top 7 moments. So at number 7, we have freezing of carbonite of Han Solo. I really love the moment where you kind of realize exactly what's happening. You've got that quick little side conversation with Boba Fett and Darth Vader, and then you've got the conversation between Han and the rest of them, and it culminating in Leia telling Han, "I love you," and Han looking up at her and saying, "I know," and then freeze. I love that moment. It's a great moment to me. So that's number 7. Number 6 is probably the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think whichever way you watch these movies, if you watch them with the original trilogy first, if you watch them 1 through 6, whichever way you watch them, it's that moment where I think you really figure out this is not a kid's story. There may be stuff in it for kids, but this is not a children's property. This is not Bob the Builder. And I've always loved that. I feel like there's always been so much debate in that moment. What is Luke thinking? What is Obi-Wan thinking? Was this the whole reason that Obi-Wan decided to go off by himself? Did he always know that this was going to have to happen? It's just, and then later when you hear Alec Guinness again telling Luke to use the Force when he's targeting the exhaust port, it's a great moment in the story. So we're up to number 5. And for me, I think number 5 is the beginning of the Battle of Geonosis, or maybe even just the Battle of Geonosis in general. But I really love when they're all in that Coliseum and you see all the Jedi pop up. And it really kind of hits home just how many of these Jedi Knights there were and how powerful this reign was. You've got the original trilogy where you only see 2, 3 Jedi, depending on how everything's going. You see you see Luke and Obi-Wan in the first one. Then you see Obi-Wan's ghost and Yoda. So it's just, I've always loved it. I've always loved seeing that many Jedi fighting. On to number 4. This is really when it gets difficult. I will be honest. Actually, let me rewind just a little bit. As a bonus, something that's not in the top 7. I do really enjoy that moment. It's a singular moment, but the moment in Force Awakens when Han and Chewie get back to the Millennium Falcon. And the reason I like that moment so much is because it kind of calls back, at least for me, to how much hope we had even when we left the movie, and we were kind of like, okay, this was kind of like A New Hope all over again. But there was so much promise, I think, that in that moment, it just kind of encapsulates a feeling that we all had. So that's my that's the bonus one that didn't make my top 7. So we're back to number 4. And I really like the burning of Qui-Gon. I don't know if that's too close to the Duel of the Fates to count in Duel of the Fates, but I'm not going to count it there. I really like the burning of Qui-Gon, and for the same reason that I like the battle between Obi-Wan and Vader in 4, because it also goes to kind of age up the audience. This is a very sad moment, and it's a very dark moment in the story. And honestly, I'd love to get content between 1 and 2, because we've got I know there's a lot of theories out there. I've seen a bunch of YouTube videos just on like suggestions. I haven't watched any of them, but I've seen a lot of YouTube suggested videos that are like why Palpatine was scared of Qui-Gon the most. And so I really would like to see more of Qui-Gon, or more of how the death of Qui-Gon affected Kenobi and Anakin and the Jedi Council in general. So that, I think that's probably 4. Number 3 is probably in episode 6 at the Sarlacc pit, when Luke jumps off the plank, turns around, spins around, flips back up, and grabs his brand new green lightsaber. The second he sparked up that lightsaber, I was infatuated with it. It's my favorite lightsaber. It's the only one I've ever looked at buying. I didn't have the money when the first Black Series of it came out, and I got really upset with a friend of mine when he sold his and didn't offer it to me, or didn't ask if I wanted to buy it. So I have a really big thing for that scene. And it does not hurt that you've got Leia in her metal bikini in that scene either. The second is the Battle of Heroes on Mustafar between Kenobi and Anakin, and the whole fight ending with "You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you." The emotion, the raw emotion going through Ewan McGregor at that moment just grabs you. I absolutely love it. And then number one is Duel of the Fates, with particular emphasis on the very beginning when Darth Maul shows up. The doors slide open, and Darth Maul shows up, lifts the cowl off his head, and sparks up one side of his saber and then the other. And it's just like, oh my God, double bladed? I remember being shocked. And it was such an iconic fight. And the music going on at the time as well is incredible. John Williams the dude can score a movie. Oh yeah, those are my top 7. I think what I will do with what and then maybe I and Dan will do with Star Wars stuff in the future is maybe we'll do short little videos on like top 3 fighters, or like space fighters, or top 3 Jedi, top 3 Sith, things like that. And it'll probably include the extended universe as well. I haven't read any of the books. I think I'm going to read some of them as I get back into it. So I think that because I want to expand my Star Wars lore knowledge. I've got some Star Wars models coming in that I'm going to be painting on stream, putting together and painting, and hopefully that's some fun stuff to watch. But yeah, once again, I want to thank X-Wing and Echo Base Network for getting me back into Star Wars. It's been so much fun. These past 2 weeks have been incredible. I've loved talking Star Wars more than I had even before the sequels. I mean, I love it. I can't wait. If you like this, make sure you like and subscribe. Click the bell. You'll get notified of when we go live or whenever we post any more content. And follow us on Twitter at KingsAdvisors_. And may the force be with you.